Excellent. So I'm Jenny Herrera, Executive Director of Acts 435, and it's an absolute joy to welcome you today to our Giving Hope Together event of 2024. And I'm particularly delighted today to welcome one of our trustees. Just like the staff, we're a pretty small group of trustees, just 5 in total. And one of them is the wonderful Alison Sang, who works for Compassionate Communities in the Diocese of London, really seeking to equip churches there in a variety of ways, but particularly linked to us in helping those who are reaching out to people in poverty, of which there is an awful lot across London. And I've known Alison for many years as we've kind of worked together in trying to get London churches to connect with Acts 435 and just be a resource to them. So we thought it would be great just to hear a little bit from her, what she sees in her work, what she sees on the ground in London. And, you also get to hear from a trustee, which I think is a great opportunity as well. So I'm going to hand over to Alison.
So I do that speaking on mute thing. Hello, it's lovely to see you all and be here. And yeah, just really lovely to be part of this. I don't always get to come, even though I'm a trustee and I'm really deeply invested in Acts 435. I also have a day job and I can't always make it, but it's delighting. I'm delighted to be here today. So my name's Alison and I work for the Diocese of London, which is the Church of England, and we cover about 17 of the London boroughs, so inner London and outer London, and we support churches around poverty and around social action and community ministry. But it's also a delight to be an Acts 435 trustee. So I'm one of the small band of trustees, and I can't tell you what a joy it is to support this organisation. I am a real champion and advocate of Acts 435 and always have been, but now I get to see it from the inside. I'm more impressed and more encouraged by it. And what's encouraging is it does what it says on the tin, and it is an organisation that is about the love of God, showing that practically in some beautiful ways. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes, when I talk to people about Acts 435 all the time, I just show them the website and show them some of the requests of what is coming in. And I think people are often really incredibly moved by the fact that this is the church just meeting people's needs, just as we were told to do in the Bible. It's carrying on today. So it's lovely to be part of a small, tiny bit of a wheel in a much bigger organisation that's doing such beautiful things. And I know you're all part of it too, or if you're not, I'd encourage you to get involved either as a partner church or a donor church. So just talk a little bit about my role and what we're seeing. I'm aware London is very different to other parts of the country, but I'm also aware that there's a lot of human suffering all over the place, and particularly at the moment we're noticing massive increase in needs. So as I said, we work with 17 different boroughs, and we work with Church of England churches, but we also work with partner with other churches as well, but we exist to support Church of England churches in London, and that's everywhere from like Westminster, right in the city of London, right out to places like Hillingdon and Harrow, which are outer London. So very, very, very diverse bunch of churches. We have very tiny churches that have small numbers of people, and we have massive churches that have hundreds and hundreds. And we exist to support all of them around their social action and social justice. And what we do is we often go and visit churches. We have a lot of, I've got a very small part-time team, a bit like Acts, of super incredible, capable people who manage to do it on 2 or 3 days a week. But we go and visit churches and support and encourage with them. We pray with them, and then we try and help signpost them to organisations that might be able to help. And sometimes we do training and things like that. So just talking a little bit with Jenny around before this about the things that are happening on the ground at the moment and where the need is being is greatest. I think you probably, all of you will know that food insecurity and food poverty is a massive area of it's just exponential growth at the moment. Our churches that are meeting need around food are regularly running out of food, regularly running out of things like bags to give away the food. People increasingly are coming who we've had lots of churches say, we used to know everyone who came. We used to have regular relationships with them. There were often people who'd been struggling for quite a long time, and this was one piece in the jigsaw of what was helping them to get back on their feet. And now they say people are coming who are working, who people are in work poverty is a really big thing. Families who previously might have given to the food bank are now coming to the food bank. They're having a lot of people coming through that they haven't met before, who are being referred to them, who are quite desperate. So I feel like churches are feeling like they're really at the front end of that. And I think food banks is a classic example of a really good example of where Acts 435 can be incredible, because whether it's a food bank, or we have increasingly number of food pantries as well, if you've heard of those, where people can come and do a bit. It's a slightly more of like a shopping experience for people who are struggling around food. We have a lot of meal organisations now. A lot of churches have moved from food banks into helping people create meals together and then eating with people, because one of the big things our churches tell us is that food poverty isn't actually always about food. It's often about isolation and loneliness and social connection. But over a meal or over a cup of tea at the food bank, what often happens is a conversation starts, doesn't it? So what's going on? Oh, well, actually, I haven't got any carpets, or, I had bed bugs last week and we can't afford to get rid of the duvets, but it's not great. Conversations happen, or, I had my mobile phone stolen. We have that a lot. People who are, when you're living in a hand-to-mouth existence and you're really struggling, often you forget things, you lose things break, can't replace them. And so we have that a lot at the moment, a lot of conversations around meal tables, around cups of coffee with people who are really at a low ebb. And I think churches are struggling because they can't even meet the food needs for the food banks. They're struggling to keep enough food in the food banks. So actually being able to say, well, we could probably offer you a mattress isn't very easy. But with Acts 435, it's made it much more easy. So we've got a few churches that have said they've used Acts 435, and it's been an absolute gift. And it's incredibly moving when you are thinking, I'm at the end of my tether, I can't cope, and then the washing machine breaks. For somebody who you hardly even know, is to say, well, can I help you with that? It's just, I think as Christians, we often forget that if you're not part of a church community or a faith community, you don't often get shown that sort of love. And there was one church I was speaking to the other day, and he said about the food bank and how they've had a lot of people come in, and there's one guy who keeps going back, and he said, why do you keep coming back? Because he doesn't eat very much, he's on his own. And he said it's the only place in the week where someone actually says my name. And I thought that was really moving. And he said, I go to all my appointments that I have to go to for my various health issues, and I'm just a number, I'm just part of the system, whereas here actually I've got a name. And there's something really powerful about that, isn't there? The other brief thing I was going to mention is we've had a huge number of asylum seekers and refugees put in hotels in London, waiting for their asylum claims to be heard. A lot of our churches have got alongside those hotels, because a lot of people have arrived pretty traumatized, having left countries that have fled violence or war, and then they're put in hotel rooms, often 5 or 6 to a hotel room on their own, waiting for a system that seems to just have forgotten them. And some of the hotel stories around Acts 435 have been really beautiful. So we've got children who've been given bikes so they can cycle around outside, school books, school clothing, so the children can actually get into school even though they're still living in a hotel room. And we have, I don't know whether you've heard about this, but we've had a huge number of Iranians coming to faith, which is incredible. There's a real move of the Spirit in terms of God working. And we've got a lot of churches supporting Iranian Christians who've arrived, who are fleeing persecution and can't go back to Iran. But often churches are helping with their spiritual needs, but they're often churches that haven't got anything to help with physical needs, but sometimes they've arrived with nothing. So it's really practical things like clothes. Bicycles is a regular one. We have people getting second-hand bicycles. Things like, even things like Bibles, things to read. Some really lovely stuff, stories of the church growing hugely, and with that growth there's a real need. So yeah, and quite a lot of those who've arrived with refugees and asylum seekers, often it's very, very simple things that can completely transform their lives. So they're two of the really big needs that we're seeing at the moment in our London churches, and things that are going on. Huge encouragement that our churches are showing love in a way that I think other parts of the system is struggling to do at the moment, because it's just so under pressure and under strain. We have a lot of children, our families and children's workers, there's a lot of families are really struggling with both the cost of living, but also families that perhaps are waiting for a diagnosis for their child, physical, mental or emotional, and that's a real pressure. And churches again can be the place that they're showing love. So I have huge encouragement in seeing what the church is doing. I have huge sadness in seeing the level of need, but I also have huge hope of what we can do in small ways, acts of love, that can completely transform people's lives. So yeah, that's a little brief window of what I do as a day-to-day job. But I'm very happy to, if anyone wants to ask any questions around being a trustee or anything like that at the end, there's a bit of space, I think. But yeah, lovely to be with you.
Thanks ever so much, Alison, and yeah, great to have you with us. And yes, later on there will be an opportunity for questions, and we really want to keep that totally open, different questions you might have, which may be for our trustees. We just want this opportunity really to bring that human face to Acts 435 and take your questions. So I didn't actually set out what we're going to do. So first of all, we're going to hear from Alison. In a minute, I am going to hand over to Katie, who's going to launch our annual report. Now, the interesting thing about our Giving Hope Together is that our annual report, there's always a delay. We're fully audited as a charity because we are just over £1 million income, which kicks us into the audit threshold for England and Wales, though 500,000 does in Scotland. So we have been audited for a while. But that just means there's quite a delay. So what she's going to do is look at that financial year from August 22 to July 23, and then I'm going to pick up and just talk a little bit about what's happened then, just to kind of get a flavour of things. We are then going to hear from some advocates. The wonders of tech, we've done a video, but I'm not sure we're going to hear the sound, so I've just quickly asked 3 advocates who are on that video just to kind of give you a flavour of what you would see, and we will share the link separately anyway. And then we will open the floor to questions. So that's a kind of taster of what's going to go on during the rest of our hour together. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Katie, who's going to talk you through our annual report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jenny. I think just what Alison shared there just really feeds into what our annual report kind of shows as well. I think our annual report is called Connection and Partnership. And a lot of that came out of our partnership with Warm Welcome, which I'll come on to in a little bit. But the fact that churches and charities, organisations were opening their doors during this particular winter between 22 and 23, and we were a part of that group, was just fantastic. And just to see that connection being made within those spaces, and being able to find out what people's needs are, because they got into conversation sharing food or a cup of coffee, as Alison said. So it feeds really nicely in. So I'm just going to share my screen with you and share a few slides of sort of a brief snippet really of the annual report, not to give too much away because it would be great if you could read it too. But I'm going to just share my screen here. So as I said, the theme really of the report was connection and partnership, and this photo here is of one of the Warm Welcome spaces that also happens to be an Acts 435 partner in Gillingham, and I think it just the name for the report came out of that idea of connection and partnerships that we saw during this annual report period. So in the annual report, you will be able to read forwards by both Jenny, our Executive Director, and Julian Richer, who is our Chair of Trustees, not only looking at that period of time, but also looking forwards to our vision as well. But good reflections on where we've come, which is always really encouraging too. Secondly, you'd be able to read some stories of hope from this time period, and I think it's always encouraging just to hear and read about individuals that have been helped through our work, so that will hopefully be encouraging to you as well. And then in our annual report, we always put together a timeline, and I think this is really testament to sort of the partnerships that we created first of all. So obviously in the October, we began partnering and being on the steering group for the Warm Welcome campaign, which you will have seen hopefully a lot in the press and the media. But it was obviously encouraging churches and community spaces to open their doors throughout the winter. And obviously we were part of that group, being able to put in our thoughts and ideas, but also resourcing those spaces to be able to meet the needs of individuals through what they were doing as well. And a couple of others of our friends on this part of the timeline, obviously Compassionate Communities, you've just heard loads about, which is fantastic. And also our friends Jubilee Plus, we regularly appear in one of their blogs or vlogs. So that happened within that year too. There's lots of milestones within our timeline as well. And in the January of 2023, we increased the limit of requests up to £200 to really reflect the rising cost of living in the UK. And then moving forward, in the July of 2023, so right at year end, we saw £5 million given to individuals in need since we began, which was a great milestone as well. And along this period too, we connected loads with our trustees and other stakeholders, and especially our supporters through various meetings and appeals and campaigns too, which is just fantastic. But you can read that all in our report. And then just finally on the annual report, here's some stats at a glance. Obviously, there is far more detail, and you can obviously read the financial statements too within the annual report. But obviously within this period of 12 months, we helped over 7,500 individuals with £969,820 given directly to their need, which is just fantastic. And then also we were able to reclaim £155,374 in gift aid, so on donations that were applicable for gift aid, which is just fantastic. And as Jenny might touch on later on, with our sustainable model and how we use that gift aid for our work. So I'm just going to stop sharing my. So that's our annual report. Raina's going to pop a link to it in the chat so you can read the full thing and take a look at everything that happened during that time. But I think it was just a really encouraging period that you'll hopefully be able to read about. And just finally from me, before I hand back over to Jenny, we're just wanting to highlight really and encourage you to share our work with people you know, with friends and family, and just to remind you of a couple of ways you can do that. So the first one is social media. For us, as an online giving charity, social media is just paramount. It's really vital because it gives donors and supporters the opportunity to click through onto links and find our website directly and be able to give quickly. So obviously, if you are on any of the social media platforms that we're also on, which is Facebook, Instagram and X, you can share things that we post. You can remind your friends and family of your own thoughts on what we do, which is just fantastic. So any of that is greatly appreciated. Even if it is just a share of something we've already said, then that would be brilliant. And then just secondly, it's just a reminder really of some of our literature. So this one is our donor postcard, we call it, but they're brilliant if you are part of a church or you're part of a prayer group that meets regularly, and you would like to sort of tell them about what we do, or giving out to friends and family, then feel free to let us know that you'd like some of those. And then if you know other churches that might want to get involved or charities that might want to get involved, this trifold leaflet just gives a bit more information about what we do. And also on the back is how to get involved for churches and charities as well as individuals who might want to donate. So either of those are available, and I will pop the email address to email sort of a request for those in the chat too. But do please make use of the resources because they're there for people to spread the word about what we do, and that would be fantastic. Right, Jenny, I'm going to pass back over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie, and thanks for all your hard work on putting the annual report together. Do take a proper read of it. It is just a great way to look back over a year and see all that's been going on in our charity and the way that everyone is together giving hope. So I want to just kind of reflect a little bit on where we've come since then, because the annual report takes you to the end of last July. And it's been an exciting season for us, I think, since then. Some of this you'll be well aware of, some you may not, depending on how connected you are in with us, how long you've been on this journey. So a few things just to share with you. I think particularly thinking of the donors, one thing that you're probably not at all aware of is that when we did gather together, trustees and staff, back in February 2023, one of the ideas that came out on that was to really think about some key partners. So we've got like 650 partner churches and charities, lots of advocates who maybe use Acts 435 from time to time. And then there are other advocates who are using Acts 435 a lot. And whilst we ask all of our advocates to help share the word, because the biggest percentage of new donors comes from local churches sharing the word. It is so important that they are going out and telling people about Acts 435. But we haven't got the team, as you've seen, to really make sure that's happening. And it's just not practical to be keeping tabs on everyone. It's worth pointing out that it's completely free for a church or charity to partner with us. And so what we felt was that it was worth having a differentiation between key partners and all the other advocates, so that those key partners were able to post more requests onto our website at any one time, and just have a bit more recognition, opportunity to engage in different projects we may have down the line. But in return, there would be an expectation that they would do a bit more. They would make sure that we were on their website and that they were spreading the word for us and doing a couple of social media posts. Nothing onerous. Hopefully our key partners would agree. But just a way to say, well, this is a team that are particularly engaged with us on this journey and so key. So that was something we introduced in September, October time, and I think has been from our perspective, has been successful and has been just good to have those key partners that we really work with. And actually, as I think, as we grow and as things, maybe we have new ideas, they are a great group of people to bounce ideas off and say, do you think this is going to work or not? So we have, I don't know the exact number, probably nearing 40 key partners, which has been great. Another thing that sort of happened around the summer into the autumn is one of those specific projects I talked about, and I'm going to hand over to Rona briefly just to share the story of that.
Thank you, Jenny. So for some background, in May last year, a gentleman called John Clark, he was the general manager of Mercado, who are the leading supplier of flooring in the UK. John read an article on the BBC about somebody, about the desperate housing conditions that some people are living in the UK, and he was moved to action. The article interviewed a lady who had received help through Acts 435, so he got in touch with us. To start with, Mercado kindly offered to help with some of the specific flooring requests that were live on our site at that time. But John asked for a meeting so that we could explore how they might be able to help on a bigger scale. He explained to us that there is currently no efficient way of recycling carpet in the UK, and as a result, many tons of offcuts and excess from orders are sent to landfill every day. Instead, we'd like to see these being used to help those who are living in poor conditions, using our network of partners and advocates to help identify those who are most in need. So in August, we launched a pilot with Mercado, a pilot in the areas of Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire and Shrewsbury. Through this project, when an advocate is working with someone in need of flooring, they can place an order with Mercado, who will provide and deliver everything needed for that job completely free of charge. This includes carpet, vinyl, underlay, door plates, grippers, floor glue, everything. My knowledge of carpeting has increased somewhat in the last 10 months. Whereas previously an advocate would have had to use an applicant's full limit of 3 requests. We can only support 3 requests per household. Previously, an advocate would have had to often use that full limit of 3 requests in order to carpet just 3 separate areas of their house. And this would often only afford them the most basic carpet. They now only have to post a single request, and that will cover the cost of paying a local carpet fitter to complete the job. And our advocates are now in a position to complete someone's whole house with beautiful quality, long-lasting carpet and turn someone's house into a home. So in just 10 months of this pilot project, we have already been able to help over 175 people to carpet their homes, not only making their conditions more livable, but also greatly reducing their heating costs, as proper flooring can reduce these bills by up to a third. We're currently in the process of exploring if and how we might open the project more widely beyond the pilot areas. And we're really grateful to John Clark for his vision and to the wider team at Mercado for their generous support and desire to help our applicants in this incredible way. Back to you, Jenny.
Thanks, Ronan. It really has opened our eyes to the potential of other items, which, you know, there are some complicated ones like white goods and the issues that can come from when they are recycled, but there are many other things like sofas, for example, that when they're returned they just go into warehouses. Are there different people we could partner with? Who knows, as time goes on, how we might do that. But, you know, for us it's always going to be about getting direct help to those individuals in poverty. It's always about helping the individual person at the end, not about funding charities, funding churches. It's always about getting out to the individual people in the community. And one of the most exciting things for us last year was the very end of the year, where we were featured on Songs of Praise, which was just, you know, the dream ticket, really. We were featured back in 2012, so we decided we've got a once a decade hit at this. So our once a decade hit in 2023 was just, came to actually our church in York as it happened, and Pat, who's on the call, brought someone who we'd helped over all the way from Oldham, which we're really grateful for. And they just filmed. It was a very, very short piece that they did, but, you know, it was in their run up to Christmas. And it captured what we were doing, and in that 1 week, I should have got the figures back to hand, but we got £50,000 given in that 1 week, and on the Sunday that it was aired, I think it was like 323 new donors all giving, and I think what we've seen is then that's continued. So these first 4 months of the year, we have seen giving has kind of increased and stayed there, and has enabled us to be really meeting most needs within a week, which is just where we want to be. You know, if we can turn these things around really quickly, then people aren't waiting any longer for the thing that they so desperately need. So that's just been was just a really exciting occasion, but particularly good that it wasn't just a one moment thing. We've been able to sustain that. Another thing that has happened recently, it has been a busy time, is that the debt relief order fee was abolished in the budget, so announced at the beginning of March. Well, if you are a donor of Acts 45, you will probably have seen over the years plenty of £90 being asked for a debt relief order fee. Now, that is just England and Wales, but that is the majority of the ones that we have funded over the years. And we've always said Acts 45 is a great fit because it's quite nice to have some £90 requests alongside some of those bigger needs. But hey, if the government are going to cover it, even better. So we are, we are pleased that they've made that decision, and it just enables us to go back to churches and charities that were more focused on the debt relief order fees and say, okay, well, that's been covered, but are there other needs that the people you are working with need? You know, are there a specific item like a bed, like a washing machine, like a bus fare, whatever it might be? Don't just think Acts 45 is for debt relief order fees. So we're excited to keep engaging those different churches on the journey, but we're also pleased that we're able to, turn our funds to help other people. It's interesting with debt relief order fees. They have had some donors who particularly want to give to that need because they know that it's just taking off all that debt, but then there are plenty of others for whom that hasn't been the right fit. So, and that's what we've always loved about Acts 435. There's variety on our website, and we may have no more debt relief order fees, but there's plenty of other different types of needs: families, single people, homeless, refugees, those who fled domestic abuse, those who are out of work because of ill health, all sorts of different needs, as I'm sure you're aware. The final thing just to reference for our current kind of season is that we are, by we, I mean Rona and her husband, are going to go and have a go at what it's like to be at one of these big festivals. So we are at the Big Church Festival down in Sussex, which is at the weekend after next. It's quite hard for us as a small team to really have a presence in the likes of Spring Harvest, New Wine, some of these big things. This is a weekend, so we thought it was worth trying, just to kind of get more and more churches engaged, because I spoke at a conference in March, and I still have plenty of people who come up to me and say, I've never heard of Acts 435. you know, it's difficult. It is difficult to get without a ginormous advertising budget, and even with that, it will be difficult to get the word out in just a information overloaded world. So we're hoping that this will lead to some new engagement, both with churches that want to partner with us and with individuals who want to give. So we're excited about that, and you know, I hope that's given you a bit of a flavour of where we're at. So I do want you to start thinking about your questions, but in the next, I'm going to give you a minute each, advocates. I'm going to just ask 3 advocates just to quickly share, well, a minute and a half you can have, their stories, because I'm just not convinced that the video that we've put together is you're going to get any sound. So we may insert that when we do finalise the recording to share. But in any case, we will put the YouTube link on so you can see the full video of lots of different stories. But Alison, can I come to you first? And if you wouldn't mind just sharing what you've shared on the video for us live.
Yes, I will do. I'm relieved there's no video, actually. That's quite nice. So, yeah, my name's Alison. I'm from the Lewisham Food Bank. And I just wanted to say we've definitely seen a very fast turnaround with stuff recently. In fact, so much so that our white goods supplier dreads my text now because he hasn't got enough stuff for us. So that's amazing, because that's never happened before. So I just wanted to tell you about a young guy that we had who'd already started to move himself forward from alcohol addiction. He was studying maths and English, and he had a flat, but he had absolutely nothing in it. So he asked us for a mattress and a cooker. And this is just like one of the most detailed thank you messages we've ever had. I won't read every bit, but it starts off, "Dear founder, I wanted to express my sincerest gratitude to you for your generous contribution during these challenging times. Your kindness and support have not gone unnoticed. I'm truly grateful. Your contribution came at a crucial moment, and it made a significant impact on me. It reminded me of how important money is during difficult times, and your willingness to help has touched my heart deeply. Thank you for your kind gesture and for being a beacon of light in my life when I needed it most. I'm forever grateful." And this is from a guy whose first language definitely wasn't English, and it's just like a beautiful message. The other one I just wanted to share with you was from a guy, our guy who supplies stuff is actually called Dash, which I quite like. And this is from a guy who actually wanted to give us a quick thank you. He was a really fun guy that we worked with, and he kept in touch and he was very proactive. But this was his thank you. "Everything all delivered. Dash coming later to sort out my washing machine. I'm so grateful for you and your teams in helping me in my time of need. What would we be without you guys? Thank you so much. I wish there was some way of helping you guys out. You are all a diamond in the rough," spelt RUFF, and lots of little thank you hands. So that's what I wanted to share. 2 very different kinds of thank yous, but both very heartfelt. Thank you for listening.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Alison. That's great. I just love that. Diamond in the rough. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Kath. If you can share your story, please, Kath.
Hi, so my name's Kath. I work at Manchester City Mission, and I just wanted to follow on from what Rona was saying about the carpet trial, which has been absolutely amazing for our clients. It's just been made such an absolute difference to so many people. But the story I wanted to share was about a lady that we've known for several years. We knew her when she was first homeless, and we helped her into housing. And we have had a couple of requests before for basic needs, but last September she heard that her mum had passed away in Cameroon, and she was obviously very upset about that, but more upset because she didn't have the wherewithal to be able to bury her mum. And so she had to put her into a mortuary and leave her there till she could get the funds together. So thanks to Acts 435, we were able to help with that, and her mum was buried in the way she wanted her to be buried, and Chantal was the lady was able to follow her on it's on video. I'm saying that because actually she's with me at the minute. She's just across the way, and so it just made such a tremendous difference in such an unusual request. I mean, we have a lot of requests for white goods, beds, all kinds of desperate needs, but this was particularly poignant and such a blessing to have an avenue, because there is no other avenue that we could have gone down. So thank you so much.
Brilliant, thanks, Kath. And I think that's it. We always, sometimes people say, sometimes advocates say to us, oh, what do you think about this request? Right, put it on the website. It is donor led. We are not grant funding it. We are waiting for donors to respond to specific needs. And people did, and were able to really set her mind at rest and help in that difficult situation. And finally, I'd like to come to Rob, please.
I'm Rob. I work for a charity called the Recruitment Junction up in Newcastle. We're a charity that support unemployed ex-offenders with finding and starting work and staying in it. I just want to tell you about one little chap that I work with. He recently moved to Newcastle, lots of trouble with the police in the past, unemployed, kind of struggling to find a way of finding purpose. We introduced him to a construction firm that offered him a job, but he lacked some of the basic things you need to start the job, which is often what Act 435 helped us out with. So for him, he didn't have any ID. He needed right to work ID to start the job. He didn't have any work boots, and he had literally no money in the bank to get on the bus to get to the job. So Act 435 funded all of that, which paid for the bus for the first 2 weeks. So he started the job 5 weeks ago. I spoke to him yesterday. He's still there. He's super thankful. He's doing really well. He's by all accounts staying out of trouble, and that's kind of a classic story of where Act 435 probably help us out every week with someone that's perhaps got an interview, has got nothing to wear, has got a job but they've got no ID, they've got nothing to wear for work, they've got no funds to travel to a job, and it's often those little practical things that the donors of Act 435 help unlock so someone can start a job and move on to better stuff. So we're super appreciative. It's a massive help for us.
Thanks, Rob. And yeah, isn't it great to hear? It is about, our strapline is a small gift, it makes a big difference. And that is really what we see in these stories, just help show that something that many of us take for granted, people cannot afford, and by getting them something so that they can start their job is just hugely important and life-changing, literally. So I just wanted to point out actually that those three, thank you so much, the three of you, for just sharing there, be putting on the spot. They're all from charities rather than churches. That isn't entirely surprising, because key partners usually need to have a bit more time and energy around how they are working, not with posting a request on Acts 45, because that doesn't take long, but it's the wraparound help with the people they're working with. But these charities are supported by churches. Something like Manchester City Mission will have a whole group of churches connected in, and food banks are very much seated in churches and connected to churches. And so I think that's an important point to reference out. It really is both and. Brilliant. We have come to the time of questions, so I would love you to put anything in the chat that you would like to. I might be sending some your way, Rona, but I will, first of all, I've noticed Trees has put, have you ever thought of partnering with the Mother Union? I think it's a really good point. I've spoken to individual ones locally to York, but I think it's not something that we've looked at kind of at a national level. I don't really know how they're organised at a national level, but I think it is something we should pick back up, because I know individual ones have certainly been interested in the past, so we will make a note of that. Rona, the ones I'm throwing your way is so Alison asking any chance for carpets in London, and actually, yeah, why don't you go with that one, and then Shirley, that might be more. Let me have a look. Shirley said, I want to become a key partner. I did all the necessary advertising some months ago, but had trouble letting Acts 45 know who can speak to about this. That will be Rona as well, Shirley. So I'll just pop, Rona can just emphasise that. But Rona, do you want to just let Alison know where we're up to with carpets in London?
Absolutely. Alison, you'll be pleased to know that there's actually, so as I said when I was speaking earlier, we are in conversations about opening up more widely. We're not in a position to open up completely to the whole network. That would be a huge task, and we're not in a position to do that. So I'm working with Mercado to identify some key locations where we might be able to open it up. And you'll be pleased to know that one of their centres is actually in Lewisham, and they were very keen that that would be one of the points. So I can't offer many more spoilers because we're still working in the other locations. But yes, I'm working very hard to open it up to in London. It is like at this point to be key partners only, but you are a key partner, Alison, so that's fine for you. I just want to get that in there. I know that'll be a disappointment to others, but we do have to just be cautious about how we roll this out because it is quite a big project and quite complex. But yes, I'm working hard on that, Alison. Hopefully I'll have some good news for you soon.
Thank you. One of my favourite questions here, is your operation really only funded from gift aid alone? It seems a small amount. Well, I love talking about this because it's such an amazing model. So Julian Richer just had this idea right back in 2009. Well, we'll just make sure that if you give £60 for someone's washing machine or carpet or whatever it might be, the full £60 will go. But if you're a taxpayer, we'll be able to claim gift aid, and that will be used to fund our admin costs. Now, of course, for a number of years, he supported the massive gap between, there was never a massive gap, to be fair, because it used to be me working 10 hours a week for a number of years. So eventually up to 3 days. However, from 2015, we've been fully self-supporting, and it's not just that. We get about £160,000 a year in gift aid. We don't need all that for our admin. By admin, I really just mean the programme support with which Acts 45 could not function. So developing our website and paying the 4 of us. And we then give extra. We give about £30,000 of that 160 a year back into the request, particularly when things are slow over the summer. We just move some over and just use that to support those requests. And then we let a little bit mount up, which is how we were able to revamp our website a couple of years ago. I think just the model is really, we keep it neat and we're able to keep it free for our partners, and they are managing it. So I don't envisage that changing. And if we were to suddenly double in number, by which I mean double the number of partners, double the number of requests being posted a month, double the number of people giving, we'd get loads more gift aid, but we would just give it all into the request because we don't need it. We don't need to become we don't need some fancy office. We'll work from home with our local church as a registered office. So yeah, we're pretty proud of our model, as you can probably hear from my voice. But yeah, some say it's disingenuous because actually we're taking some of the money, but it's not. It's HMRC's money once you've paid it, so they're giving it back to us. And let me tell you, they are very efficient at returning money when you put in a gift aid return. So yeah, hats off to the HMRC in that department. Right, any other questions? It would be helpful if all requests had a location. We used to have that, didn't we? I need to just look back at the website to see what we've got at the moment.
Jump in here, Jenny. So yes, most requests do have a location. However, when we revamped the website, we gave the advocates the option to hide the location for particularly sensitive requests. There are some situations where obviously all our requests are anonymous and we try to keep the identifying details to a minimum. But for some of our partners, complete anonymity is absolutely key if they're working in sensitive situations and sensitive cases. So we did allow them to use that function. We do ask our advocates and those who are on the call, please bear this in mind, to use it only where it's truly necessary. The request itself should be completely anonymous, so the location shouldn't give too much away. But particularly for those partners who are sharing their requests with their supporters, to help them to help raise those funds as quickly as possible, sometimes they just want to keep it as anonymous as possible, and that's why they withhold the location. We as a team are able to see the location, so we're making sure it's listed in the right region when you are filtering by that on the site, but that's why they don't always have the location.
Yeah, thank you. Some requests are fulfilled quickly, others not. Do you end up helping all regardless? So I just referenced gift aid, didn't I? So towards, particularly last summer, we did see requests being on the website for maybe 20, 21 days. We do get standing orders every every month. Not loads and loads, because it's never been something that we've been running after, but some people do say I just haven't got the time to look through the website, so they give standing orders. We do apply those standing orders to those oldest requests because they're the most urgent, because they've been waiting the longest. So there is a sense in which we know that every month we've got what, maybe £4,000 or £5,000 that we will be able to put into those. But the reality is we haven't. The reality is at the moment when standing orders come in, we just apply them to the most urgent, but they haven't been waiting 17 days. They're just, everything is moving, which is really encouraging. I think certain areas where the church has promoted it really strongly, then they get met particularly quickly because they've got a really strong local donor base. They also maybe spread it, put it out on social media, or perhaps they work for a food bank, they put it around to their food bank volunteers, and they get met quickly. So then that means that with things like standing orders or from time to time gift aid, we're able to step in and meet those where we know there just aren't so many donors. So that is why we've been able to say that every single request has been met, but it is a small percentage. In the last couple of months, our income was around £90,000. So when you think standing orders only 4,000 or 5,000 of that, it is predominantly individual donors going in and choosing to meet all those. So that helped answer your question. What Phil said, as an advocate, it often seems that a request gets full funded overnight. Can you tell us more about how a request is typically met? Is it a sum of small donations or more often a single donation covering the full amount? It is a complete range, is the answer to that. I think sometimes our mail shot is really a successful way to just get donations in. So every other Friday I write a mail shot with the help of Katie, who puts all the stories in for me. And the request, when we do the one that highlights requests, that definitely sees requests go from 0 to hero in a matter of hours. And that isn't necessarily someone going and giving the whole £200. Someone gives 20, someone gives 50, someone gives 70, and before you know it, it's been met. Our average donation is around £105, I want to say. Now, when the median is, no, maybe it's the most common donation is £50. That's the most common. Now, with our request being up to 200, you can tell that the most common donation is not to meet a whole request in full. And there are every single month I do stats. Julie and Richard love stats, so I do many stats, and every month we look at the smallest donation, the biggest donation, the mean average, the modal average, and the median. So I can tell you that the lowest donation every single month is £5. So there are plenty of people going on every month and giving £5. The highest each month is usually around 2,000, but the vast majority are around 60 here, 120 there, 200 there. So it is a real mixture, which I think is just great. But there's certainly some who go on and are able to give £200 and give that full amount. And that's why a request might sit on the website as 0 and then suddenly be met in full. So there's certainly people who are doing that as well. It just never fails to amaze. I love doing the monthly graphs because it just, you just look at that and think, this is amazing. This is loads of individual people. And also when the mail shot goes out at 12:15 on a Friday, then like a couple of hours later, I look and I see all these people giving it. It's amazing. It's so heartwarming, and we couldn't do it without each individual donor that's choosing to give. Some give once or twice a year in quite a big sum. Some are just faithfully giving like every week. They're just giving £10 here, £20 there. It's just amazing. Is there a limitation of requests that can be made for one person family? Yes, there is. We tend to say 3 per household. Sometimes in needs such as fleeing domestic violence, an advocate may post all 3 at once because they've had to change schools, they need school uniform, they've been rehoused, so they need a couple of white goods as well. But we certainly don't want to ever be a subsistence. That's not what we are. We're not a charity that you can rely on. We step into the gap for specific items, and we will only allow a 4th or 5th request in exceptional circumstances. For example, their first 3 were like 10 years ago, and new circumstances have arisen. Okay, recording the meeting. Yep, so we will be recording it. Gotta love some stats. Geographic spread across the 4 nations of the UK. That's actually something interesting that I haven't shared, which I'll probably end with this, is we I think common to some other charities which are particularly thin in the ground in certain areas, we do have strong pockets. Shout out to the Southwest at this stage. In spite of being miles away from the Southwest, they've spread the word naturally. And we've got a lot of churches, whether it's all the way down into through Cornwall or down on, around Bournemouth area. We work with partners like Alison, who then kind of helps us spread the word in particular areas. We are very, very thin on the ground still in Wales and Scotland. It's just difficult to find churches there. And then there's particular pockets like Leicester. Can we get church partners in Leicester and Lincolnshire? So there are certain areas where it's not necessarily for want of trying. However, this year as a team, we thought, let's get really specific and target. And so if you get our mail shot or get our prayer bulletin or get the advocate update, you will have seen that each month we've been looking at some specific areas. We started in January with Bristol because that's another, big city, plenty of need, not got many organisations. So we've really kind of worked with our partners, said to the likes of Trussell Trust, okay, where are the food banks in Bristol? Let's see if we can link with them. Let's talk to the diocese there. Let's look at other church families and denominations. And then Leicester was April. And we also have looked at the South Coast and Blackpool. Later on in the year, we're going to head for Glasgow because we could do with some more there. So, just try and really work on those areas. So, yeah, I think it's keep plugging away. And that's where I guess, because we're a small team, it's difficult. And we are so dependent on all of you wonderful people just helping spread the word for us and linking people in. If you introduce people to us, we'll jump on it. We'll say, yes, let's have a meeting, let's talk about more, potentially let's come and visit if there's, if we can get a good group together. But we need those introductions. So, right, that's a whistle-stop tour of Acts 45. I hope you find that helpful. Katie, do you want to put the link into the chat for the YouTube video, which will give you all those stories, including the 3 that we heard live, but just give you the stories with subtitles as well of different people and how they've used Acts 45 to help people and the difference it's made. We're always here. Any questions you have, just please email us, call us. We're just so grateful you're on the journey with us. So I'm just going to finish by praying for us and then let you all go. So Lord God, I just want to thank you. It is just a huge privilege to have been involved in Acts 435 for so many years and to really be part of something that is so much a joint effort. Lord, I want to thank you for our advocates who are reaching out to people in need, who are there on the front line. Lord, I just pray that you would continue to give them energy and all that they need. And thank you that we're able to step into the gap for so many and make such a tangible difference. And Lord, I thank you for our donors who are so faithfully giving in many different ways as fits for right for them. And thank you that we have such variety on our website and donors just are led to give to different things, and we just pray that you will continue to keep everything in balance so that people are helped quickly and that we can give this fast financial help that we are just so passionate about. I want to thank you for Julian and his idea and just this great model with Gift Aid, and just pray your blessing over our trustees and staff as well. We thank you that together we truly can give hope in our nation where there is just so much struggling and so much poverty. Amen. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute joy to be with you this morning. And yeah, let's just keep on going, giving hope together.